Anthony, the author of The Daily Dungeon Master, is back, sharing the real-life magic of how to start organized crime.
Organized crime.
Whoops, I mean how to start organized tabletop RPG groups. My bad. Whether you're thinking of starting a tabletop RPG club, joining an official play program like the Adventurers League or Pathfinder Society, or you just want to get some more games going more consistently, stick around.
Stick around.
Let's go make your claim to game. Hey, welcome back, Anthony. You're here for round 2, episode 2 for you. And what we want to talk about today is organized play. There are a lot of different ways that people can get into organized play. However, you have a unique experience where you have created organized play in different facets with people that you've interacted with, different gamers that you've helped start up their groups. And so I want to come in hot and ask, can you tell me a story of how you first got involved first in organized play and what motivated you to start an Adventure Leagues group in the first place? Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So as I mentioned last one, my wife and I used to be foster parents.
Okay.
And we specialized in teens. And I had two sons of my own. And then several teenage girls that we fostered for. And long story short, my wife, I wanted to give her a night off at least once a week, just to give her a night off and take the kids to go do something together. And
what
then,
a guy.
and just to give her a break and, take the kids to go do something. So there was a new game store that opened in town, and I really liked their concept. I really liked their vibe.
Great vibe.
And so I said, hey, I'd like to.
Do you remember what it was called?
Yeah, Syndicate Games.
Is it still around, Syndicate Games?
No, it's not, unfortunately. No, they closed down. Yeah, okay. Big bummer. I said, we like to come in weekly just to play. And they said, yeah, here, we got table space. Go ahead. And so we sat down, and I was running Tomb of Annihilation. I was finishing it. I'd already been playing with some of the kids at home. But it started with me running this for just my foster kids and my kids. And then they invited their friends. And their friends' friends. And their friends' friends' until I was running the table with the middle schoolers. And I had other high schoolers running the tables for the other high schoolers. And there was like 4 tables worth of people. And this woman comes in with her kid, who is a middle schooler. All my middle school kids knew him. She goes, hey, are you the dad that runs this? And I stop. And I kind of do this whole thing where I'm like looking around. Yeah, I guess I am. And they said, cool, what do we need? I said, can you bring pencil and paper? That's what they need. Oh, well, they got that. I said, cool, then we're good to go. And so, that was accidentally how I started the Adventurers League program in this little town in the middle of nowhere, Nebraska. Eventually I said, you know what? Because I'd heard of Adventurers League. I found out, if you're not familiar with it, check out Puffin
what
Forest.
is Adventurers League? Because there are some people who are like, I don't know what he's talking about. And it sounds like you're just playing a game. What is Adventurers League?
Well, as Puffin Forest had said, it's a bunch of people playing the same campaign in their own tables. When I discovered that, I'm like, let me really dig into this. And it was a really cool idea. And so what the idea is that organized play, at least back then, is you maintained a character and you had a worksheet that goes along with your character sheet that talks about what you did each session. You have a DM that signs off on it every time. You put who your DM is and their Wizards of the Coast number, and you had all this stuff with it. And you would be able to take that character to any organized play event. So this character, if you're playing through Tomb of Annihilation, right? Whatever the current module is that you're working from. And you're at this point in the story and you're like, hey, I'd like to play Adventures League with you guys. You could take your character with your documentation and show up and say, hey, this is my character, DM. This is where I'm at, where I ended in the story. And you can play anything before that. You just don't get the rewards, or experience levels, whatever, until that group catches up to where your character is. And then you can start getting rewards again. But the idea was that you could take this character to any table anywhere, to play. Nowadays, it's a lot different. They don't require the documentation. They ask you to, where are you at in the story? They can put you at a table that's close to where you were in the story. So they've taken away a lot of the organized play there. But nowadays, it's just turned into more of a club.
Okay.
Where it's like a bunch of people playing the same module. You generally have one person who's organizing it, who makes sure that everybody has the resources and whatnot that they need. And that the DMs get together and say, hey, what's going on at your table? Where are we at? Trying to make sure everybody's at roughly the same place. But it turns it into a tabletop club, right? That you're all just playing the same thing.
Playing as well, first off, you said that your your dungeon master has a number, like an organized number.
Yeah.
How do you apply for that? Is it just online?
It was online. Wizards of the Coast. It's the number that you would use. They use the same system as for Magic the Gathering. It's actually the same number. It's a Wizards of the Coast, whatever member number or whatever they call it nowadays.
Okay.
You would go in and you would record, you would report your play on the store would create an event and you would put in your number. You would give them your number. They didn't put it and they'd say, okay, so we have done official play for Dungeons and Dragons or Magic, whatever you're doing. It was Wizards Play Network, I think.
Okay.
Which they still do, the Wizards Play Network thing, but it's really, organized play's really gotten away from that, which to me is much to its detriment from what organized play used to be.
Paizo has the Pathfinder Society, which I think has a very similar setup where you get your number. So this leads me to my next question, right? You go to a table, you go to a different store where Adventure League is happening and they're playing through the same campaign. If you're a person that has like your paper copy, I know there's different ways that you can use D&D Beyond and have like a digital format of your character. What happens if you've already created your character at a certain level?
Vegeta, what did you say his power level is? It's over 9,000!
You mentioned that if you go to an Adventures League table and the people at that table are not as far along in the story as you don't get any of the rewards or the levels or the gold or the equipment or things that you did previously. How do you inject yourself into that story if you came to the table with your character already leveled up and these other people aren't quite as far?
Correct. Basically, according to how League used to run, which I'll refer to Adventures League, it's just League. You could play through a story that you've already played through, but you wouldn't get any of the level rewards or any of that stuff to make it fair because you've technically already gotten that stuff. You've already gotten those rewards. You've already got through that, and it takes a good player who is not going to metagame, right? Who's not. And that's one of the understandings of if you show up at a table and you're at a table where you've already played through a story, you're not going to spoil the story for everybody else. Right.
Yeah. Metagame. Yeah. So I have some listeners that like totally understand what metagame means.
Yeah.
The listener who doesn't know what metagame means, you said it does. You're not spoiling the story for somebody else. There's also other ways, metacognition is thinking about your thinking.
Yeah.
So what are some ways that metagaming could ruin a table if somebody already has gone through the adventure? Like, can you give an example of how that would just really stink?
This stinks.
It's metagaming is the idea of using player knowledge instead of player knowledge versus character knowledge, right?
Yes.
And the idea is, that in this next room, there's a trap in the middle of the room that if you step on a specific spot, it will set off a trap. Metagaming would be walking into that room and say, I avoid this area right here. And everybody's like, why are you doing that? And it's like, oh, there's a trap there. Well, how do you know there's a trap there? Your character would have no idea.
Yeah.
Right. if you were at that point in the story, your character would have no idea. So you don't want to spoil the story for other people. There was an online, and I cannot remember what it was for the life of me, but there was an online game that you could play where you could take one action. And whatever that action was usually resulted in your death. And I love using this phrase, check inventory. So you check inventory and find out that you're wearing a shirt and pants and, oh wait, there's a bomb in your pants and it blows up, right? So what's the next thing you do for your next action that you take for starting the game over? I remove pants. Pants? What pants? You are attempting to use knowledge from a previous existence. And I've used that phrase for ages. My kids know what it means. I have to explain it to other people, but yeah, that's the metagaming. It's knowing, it's your player knowing that a troll is susceptible to fire and acid, but your character would have no way of knowing.
You're able to go in, you're able to, just recognize that you're not going to share knowledge that you already have. Mm-hmm. The official process for officially setting up an Adventure League group, is it just having the dungeon master with their number hosting the game and then uploading the progress of their characters and the people who are playing? Is there anything else that you officially need to do in order to set up an Adventurers League group?
Well, that's where it gets interesting, because the only thing you're registering is that you've played. Each individual player character used to be responsible for keeping track of what their character does, whatever. Adventurers League play has evolved. Like I said earlier, it's evolved away from that. I'm personally not a fan of. Yes, there was paperwork involved. Yes, there was a lot more work tracking things, but being able to tell everybody at the end of the session, hey, everybody make sure you check your paperwork. Dungeon masters, make sure you're signing off on your players' characters, what they did today, what they got, whether they leveled, things of that nature. It was interesting because the idea is that if you lose your paperwork, sure, you can continue playing with that group because that group knows what you got and what you didn't have, but you can't take that character anywhere else, right? To play organized play. And I like that because that was the way it was. That's the way it made organized play what it was, organized play.
It held somebody accountable.
Exactly. And it made sure that you didn't walk into, say, a game with a Vorpal longsword and
the Superman.
I'm here to fight for truth and justice in the American way.
The Superman, exactly. And the Superman, and and everybody's like, where'd you get that? You're like, oh, I got it in this adventure. Well, where's your documentation that you got it? And who signed off on this? What DM possibly signed off on this?
Who signed off on this?
I didn't sign off on that, okay?
Exactly. So yeah, it is Adventurers League. I liked the back in the day and age, right? Where you had the organization, more of the organization. It was more of the like you said, the accountability, right? Yeah. So, Adventurers League, like I said, it's turned more into a club than actual organized play. I still like it. Still like it. In fact, I started my second group. Well, not started. I inherited my second group on accident as well. I moved to where I am right now from that Nebraska location and found out the store that had Adventurers League. And I was like, great, cool, let's do this. So I show up and I'm like, hey, I tell the organizer, hey, my name's Anthony. I'm a DM. I started my own AL group where I was last. I'd like to get involved. How can I get involved, etc.? And he goes, well, actually, I'm trying to step back from stuff. Oh, okay. And then I look and I see everything about this Adventurers League group is completely out of the rule book, like completely against the rule book. Tables of 10 players. And I'm like, eye twitching because I'm like, AL says you can't have more than 7 players plus a DM.
Admit it, you have very good parents.
Okay. And they're not doing any of the paperwork. They're not creating that accountability. I'm like, but how can you call it AL if you're not following the AL guidelines? And then they're all playing different things, which, AL is not, you can technically all play different things and still be Adventurers League. That's fine. Generally speaking, if you have an organized store with play, everybody's playing the same module. It was one of those things I was like, oh, okay. He's like, I'm actually stepping back. Would you like it? Like what? Would you like to take over? Well, sure. Are you going to be okay if I do it my way? He's like, well, you might get some pushback, but yeah, I think they'd be okay with it. So it was I said I'd start with the newest adventure that released that year, which was Baldur's Gate: Descent to Avernus. And at one point I had, because this was pre-pandemic, I had 9 tables worth of players. Including one table that was, and I don't know how this ended up this way, but that's how it ended up. Nothing but 11-year-old girls. And yeah. And I don't know how it ended up that way, but they brought their friends and stuff like that. And there were other girls that wanted to play and they were playing. And there was a table full of 11-year-old girls. They were all like 11, various points of being 11, but they were all 11. And they were the most adorable little group of murder hobos you would ever meet. Like, to give you an example, one's a barbarian and one was a druid. The druid says, I wild shape into a crocodile. Okay, you wild shape into a crocodile. The barbarian says, I pick up the crocodile, my friend who's a crocodile, and throw it at the enemy. And the DM afterwards was like, had this like 1,000-yard stare look. And I'm like, what was he? He goes, it was utter chaos. It was hilarious chaos. It was fun chaos, but that was utter chaos. And I said, so how'd you do with it? He goes, they seem to have a good time. I said, then we're all in the good space. We're all in a good place. That's a good thing. That's what we're going for. And, of course the pandemic happened, and we lost a lot of players. I very quickly had to set up a Discord server where we could try to get everybody on, try to get everybody back at tables, virtual tables now. It worked. It didn't really work. I had 2 tables survive, mine and another. But we played. It was okay. Post pandemic, we came back and we ended up being 6 tables worth, 5 to 6, depending on the DM availability that day, but 5 to 6. And then the worst happens. The store shut down.
Oh.
So we had to find a new home, right? And we found a new home, thank goodness. And I'm going to give them a shout out. High Ground Hobbies in Madison, Alabama. It is literally every game store. This is what the game store should be, right? This is what a game store should be. Has great food, has gaming space, has private gaming rooms that are affordable, just everything. And we moved into there permanently. When we moved in there, one of the things we decided we were going to do was finish the campaign we were running, which was the Eberron Oracle of War. We were going to finish that campaign, and we were going to, because of the way AL had evolved, we had all decided that, maybe we want to play something different, which is how I created as I mentioned last episode, my homebrew Celsuria World, this big West Marches style. So we still call it League per se. It's more of the term we use for the group is League, but it's more of just a game, D&D game club that I basically inherited, that I kept going for the last 6 years now. This year will be 6 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Actually, I stepped because for the listeners, I'm actually in the middle of a move, which is why you'll see this gap in my posts for my website. I have a gap there because I am in the middle of a move, and sometimes, as we all know, things get hectic. But in any case, I recently, very painfully in my own mind, gave the reins over to the guy who was like my right hand. And I said, hey man, you've got the reins now. I prepared the store. I was preparing him, he's like, when are you going to announce it? I said, as last minute as possible, because I don't want to, But I did it. I kept this group together, and it evolved, players came and went, but, organized play doesn't have to be Pathfinder Society. It doesn't have to be Adventurers League. You can do organized play in a myriad of ways. And that, doing the West Marches style campaign, really highlighted our ability to do that and evolve as organized play.
You've mentioned this term a couple times, like tabletop club, RPG club. You recently helped a high school teacher friend start a D&D club in the high school. How did that work? What were some of the unique challenges of doing it in a public school setting as opposed to a game store?
Oh my goodness, that was a monster all of its own to overcome. First off, she had tried to start it up last year. She wrote to for those who don't know, Wizards of the Coast and Games Workshop have an educator program where you write them from your educator email address and say, "Hey, we'd like to start a tabletop club." And they're like, "Cool." And they send you a care package full of stuff. Nice. And that's how she got started. And all the students want to do is play Dungeons and Dragons and Warhammer, which is fine. And Magic the Gathering. Those were the things that they got sent. So that was cool, right? Everybody was having a good time with that. Well, this school year for 24-25, my friend was like, "Hey, because I told her, hey, I want to get involved. I want to help out. What can I do?" And she said, "Hey, I'd really like them to get to learn other systems, not just Dungeons and Dragons." I said, "That's awesome. That is cool. Yeah. Let's do that." So she started writing these other game companies, and even game companies that are like, they don't make games necessarily, but they make like accessories. She got Chessex, Chaosium, Talsorian sent stuff. And sometimes they sent materials. Free Leagues Publishing was really generous. Chaosium and Free Leagues.
Company.
Yeah, Free Leagues and Chaosium were super generous. And it was just so awesome to see these companies go, you want your students to be interested in games? Let us give you our game so you can try it out.
Yeah.
And they all sent care packages, or they're like, "Hey, we can't send a care package, but we can give you a discount code, an educator discount code off of anything you buy." So the club ended up fundraising for multiple things, but one of the things they fundraised for to get materials from these other game companies. And that was amazing. I ended up teaching them. I ended up running Dungeons and Dragons to begin with, just to meet the kids, get them comfortable with me. And then I ran, let's see, what else? Dread. Have you ever heard of Dread?
Oh yeah. With the Jenga tower?
Yeah. That was almost a disaster because my friend forgot the regular size Jenga, the normal Jenga. And she's like, "I have a friend, one of my other teacher friends has a giant Jenga." I said, "How giant?" She's like, "It's pretty big." And I'm like, "Okay, I don't want a child to have a concussion." She goes, "No, it'll be fine." And this Jenga tower got big. And this one student pulled one, and I watched in horror as the tower is falling. I'm like, "No, okay, this is happening." And thankfully
and
they weren't
character
injured.
Died.
Yeah, and their character died. Exactly. But I was like watching this giant Jenga tower. Like, we're talking like each piece was like 18 inches long type Jenga tower. And I'm watching in horror as this tower is falling on this student. And I'm like, "No," but, I taught them Dread. I taught them Tales from the Loop, which was very interesting. Watching a bunch
like
of
Stranger Things-esque, right?
Correct.
Okay.
The weird 80s. Yeah. Okay. They got really excited about Call of Cthulhu. They really wanted to play that. But the one that they were most excited about that I had to learn myself was Cyberpunk. I ran Cyberpunk Red for them, but I used the 2077 box set, the update, and they were into it. They were like, "This is so awesome. Let's do this." And I did run D&D for them one other time, which was around Christmas, because I like doing holiday themed adventures. When I'm running games with my friends, I do holiday themed adventures. And one of my favorite ones to run for a new group is How the Lich Stole Christmas. And the entire adventure is in metered rhyme. Like the tagline is, "You're a foul one, Mr. Lich. Your flesh smells like decay. For the crimes you have committed, there will be hell to pay when the heroes come to save Christmas Day." That is the tagline for the adventure. And for me, I like those kind of things.
Yeah, that's fun.
So I tell my players, I was like, if you do the shtick, whatever, when you find out what the shtick is for this adventure and you participate in the shtick, I will give you DM inspiration every time you engage in the shtick.
Yeah.
And they loved it. They got into it. They're doing metered rhyme themselves. They're figuring out metered rhyme, how they want to say what they want to say.
Oh, fun.
You know, and I'm not going to spoil the adventure, but I recommend if you're going to run that adventure, run the lowest level possible. Do the tier 1, because the tier 1 big bad guy is the best, in my opinion, of all of them.
How the Lich Stole Christmas.
Yes.
Can that be drive-through RPG? Is that an easy way to?
Yeah. And there's actually more than one. It is the one with the green lich on the front. It's the one on the DM's Guild or drive-through RPG by Wizard Leaf Studios. Wizard Leaf Studios. I had to look it up real quick. Wizard Leaf Studios. That one. There's another one out there that's like, looks like more of a Dr. Seuss-esque type cover. Not that one. You want the one with the green looking.
The green lich.
Dude. Yeah.
Very good. So, okay. So you created organized play at game stores. You've created organized play at schools with wild success. That is so cool that all those game companies were helping. I heard a study, and I'm going to butcher this, but I used to teach 5th grade. And back in 5th grade, deodorant companies would actually give free deodorant to teachers who were teaching health, because there's a study that shows over 80% of the people who start with a certain deodorant keep that for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
So it's like getting the kids on the Kool-Aid.
Oh, no. Oh, yeah.
So, of course, Free League's going to want them to be like, yeah, go play this game, because that might be the game that they just love and they stick with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I was actually kind of impressed, because what they sent was Tales from the Flood, the Alien RPG, and then one other I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, it was just like, I was blown away. Chaosium was the same way. And I give a big shout out to Chaosium, because they're such a great company. They're so generous, and they engage with their audience so well in a way that most other game companies don't. And they're free with their engagement. Like, they're just like, you could engage in their director of game design or their creative director and write this guy and say, hey, I've got an idea. What do you think of this? And they are the first ones to say, hey, cool, you may want to think of this or think of that. Just really awesome people. But they gave us Call of Cthulhu, RuneQuest, and Pendragon, which is one I had never heard of before, which is you're playing
King
Knights
Arthur.
Of the Round Table.
Yeah. Very nice.
Yeah. So a lot of cool ones out there. My teacher friend, she even wrote some of the smaller indie companies. They were big on sending stuff. And she told them, she's like, hey, look, my students, I try to teach them different game systems. And you know, whatever you give, we'll teach them. And these game companies have been eating it up. I also do DM training. That's another big thing with organized play, because one of the biggest things you always run into with organized play is a lack of DMs.
Yeah.
There's just a shortage of people who want to DM, want to run the game. Which, you know, I am the lovingly from forever DM. I am the forever DM.
Me too.
And I do it because I love doing it. And those chances I get to play, I treasure. But I love GMing, you know. And I have a class I did for the high schoolers called How to DM 101. And it goes over the basics for, you know, DMing and how to make it work and what it looks like. And it got a lot of good reception. I mean, we had probably 5 students who came who wanted to do that instead of play with the others. But they paid attention, they got involved, and eventually some, because it was a 2-parter. And so some of the other students who were half listening, they're like, maybe I want to learn about this. And they started coming over. And of course, the teacher was like, go ahead, go learn. Yeah. And we had them, I gave them homework. I said, based on what you've learned, I want you to write an encounter for me. I want you to write an encounter, and not a full adventure, just an encounter. And I want you to have it ready for next time. Okay. And the encounter, I said, I want the encounter to last no more than 20 minutes. And they said, okay, we can do that. I said, cool. It can be whatever kind of encounter over all the different kinds we went over, whatever you want. And you can preface it however you want. So the adventurers are, hey, you know each other, this has happened. This is what you know. Go. Go, 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 go. And I had them run it for each other. So I had one DM come up and go, okay, in this encounter, you're a bunch of adventurers, and everybody used the same pre-gen characters. Yeah. In this adventure, this is what you're trying to do. This is what your goal is. Here's the encounter. Go. And they did amazing.
Were they pretty on spot with the time of 20 minutes?
No. No. And mostly due to the players. Some of the players are total chaos gremlins, which is fine. Because one of the things I actually talked about is how to deal with chaos gremlins. They did great. We ended up doing it in 2 parts, 2 different days. The club met, and that was really important. We did the same thing with our Adventures League group. We did a DM training. We actually partnered with a Lego store, not like Lego brand, cool. But it was a minifigs and more type store, where they sold Lego and Lego stuff, whatever. We partnered with them. We said, hey, if we can get these minis to these minifigs and stuff and some Legos to make terrain, we will promote your store. And in return, you make a deal where somebody can go in and buy one of your minifigs and they can come over and play in our Lego adventure. And I took an old adventure from Dungeon Magazine, if you remember that, Dungeon Magazine, a 2nd edition adventure, and I adapted it for 5e. It's a really cool adventure. It's called Clarsh's Sepulchre. A little bit of role play, a little bit of puzzle solving, a little bit of dungeon crawl with a really unique BBEG at the end. I did that completely with minifigs. People would bring their little Lego wizard or their little Lego fighter or whatever have you. And they built these minifigs. And we actually, because we couldn't find something for a troll that was affordable, right? So one of the guys in the store 3D printed, and I wish I had it available right now, but they 3D printed a Lego troll.
They have a cave troll.
Oh, that's awesome.
A large Lego. I mean, this thing stood this tall, like really like hand span tall. And it was perfect because there was a troll in the adventure, with a club and the whole 9 yards. It was adorable. And I, being the one organizing this, guess who had to prime and paint it? This guy. I had to do that for 4 different tables, because we ran 4 tables worth of people coming for this event. And it was a blast. It was an absolute blast. And it was really successful. We had the new DMs. We trained new DMs. We had, out of those DMs, I have 2 of them that still run games for me.
So 2 things that come out of that, right? Like the recruiting of players and DMs. It sounds like a lot of this is organic. Like if you, I'm not going to say the Field of Dreams that everybody, if you build it, they will come, or it's always butchered. A lot of it, people just, if you have it, they come. Mm-hmm. And if they're interested in running it, you provide an opportunity for them to learn how to do it confidently.
Correct.
Like with the kids, that's so cool that you gave them homework and that they had to create the actual encounter, and that they're building the soft skills that if they ran an entire adventure might feel very big. Yeah. So you're building like a scaffolding in a teacher's mind. That's pretty cool. What about the schedule? Typically, I think the most common schedule I hear for most games is once a week. Mm-hmm. Others meet like every other week, once a month. Like, what's a good schedule for organized play to keep things running smoothly? And do you rotate DMs? Like, do they get, like, hey, it's your time on, your time off, or do they just run the entire adventure because it's their baby?
Very good questions. I'm going to start with the rotating DMs. Okay. Back in the day of Avernus, I had 9 tables. Yeah. So I had to have 9 DMs. Yeah. And whenever I had new people come, an entire table full of new people, I had to have one of my backup DMs pick up that table. I had one DM run for those who are not familiar, there's an adventure that takes place in a tavern. They ran the beginning of the Baldur's Gate encounters 6 times.
Oh.
6 times. And they were getting burned out, and rightfully so. So when we started the next adventure, which was Rime of the Frost Maiden, going from really hot to really cold, I told myself, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not going to get my DMs burned out. So I recruited DMs, and I said, I want every table to have at least 2 DMs. So when one DM is starting to get burned out and they're starting to they're like, man, I can't do this week. hey, cool, backup DM, you're the man, go, or woman, as the case may be, you are it. And they swap, and the burned out DM can play or just take a vacation. I was the one DM that rarely, if ever, had a backup DM. Mostly because I like doing it, but my group would eventually, and this happened later. My right hand said, "Anthony, you need a break." I said, "No, I'm fine." They're like, "No, you are obviously frazzled, putting out fires every week." And we'll talk about that in a second, the schedule in a second, but you are obviously getting frazzled. It's okay. We'll keep the store from burning down. We'll hold down the fort. You need a break. And they had a month. They gave me a month where I wasn't allowed to even come into the store unless I was bringing a character sheet to play. Right.
Oh, okay.
Which I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe I did need a break. And I really did. And it was really great of them to do that. One of the other things I did that I instituted with my organized play is what I called a DM day, where I would run a game for the DMs, right? And it's just the DMs. The league would take a break and just the DMs would come, and I would run a game just for the DMs. And that was huge, giving them all a chance to play, giving them all a chance to do their thing. And that really helped with DM burnout, because DM burnout is a thing. It is totally a thing. In fact, there is even me, I have forced vacations. There was a vacation I took once a year that is actually a D&D retreat that I go to. Roll for Joy is the name of it. For the Holy Rollers. And I go to this one. It's a faith-based one, but it's a bunch of people that play D&D, and they go to this retreat location, and we play D&D for like 3 or 4 days, and it's a blast. And I get to play and I get to do these things. Last one, I brought my adult son with me. He had a blast. It was a great father-son bonding time, but no, it was you gotta be mindful of DM burnout. So rotating DMs, hugely important. Having a backup DM, having other DMs that can say, "Hey, I need you to step into this table because this DM's going to be gone," or "This DM's got life." Life happens. TM. Which leads me to the other question you asked, which was about schedule. Honestly, I find weekly works best. Just because everybody, if you put a time and a place where you're going to be like, "Hey, every week at this time, this is when we meet." And the thing of it is with Adventures League, the way it worked and the way the campaign I last was running, the Celsuria campaign, it was really cool because if you were there, your character's there. If you weren't there, your character's not there, right? Because at the end of every session, for the organized play, for at least the West Marches, the idea is at the end of every session, no matter what's going on, you go home, back to the home base, the town of Geltar, right? And you go to that. It was really interesting to have people go back to town. They have tavern time where all the players from all the tables get to mingle and talk about the things they found. But while the DMs have our meeting to say, "Hey, this is what happened. We need to update some stuff in the materials." The weekly thing is very helpful. But the biggest thing, and it's not just weekly, it's consistency. Saying that at this day, this time is when we meet. And so for us, it was weekly on Sundays from 3 to 6 p.m. That was our time for us to play. And that's when it is. And so the store can advertise it and say, "Hey, every week we meet for the Rocket City Adventurers League," or whatever we are calling it.
Yeah, I did a live stream about a month ago, and one of the top questions that I got, that I talked about, that I went on Reddit and had over 10,000 views and hundreds of comments to. It's like, what's the one thing that kills a game? And it's a lack of consistency. Schedule. And it was like, if anything, keep it at the same time, same date. And if you don't have a quorum of enough people to play something. So that people get in the habit of playing games. That was
It's funny
number
you say
one
that.
suggestion.
It's funny you say that because I have that in a couple of my professional games where if we don't have so many of the players, I'm like, "Hey, do you guys want to play something else?" And one of my games, my longest running campaign that I ran, was if we weren't playing the main campaign, I was running through, what's that book of anthology adventures, Keys from the Golden Vault. It was the heist campaign, right? So where they were all trying to steal something, right? Ocean's 11, everything.
Because the house always wins.
And so they had the heist characters, and we call them the heist characters, even though we're done with the Keys from the Golden Vault. But we have one last adventure they want to run, because one of the things that they stole, that they nat 20'd their way through, was this vault of another thief. They had to steal from another thief.
Yeah.
And they littered her place with counter traps and stole everything, like literally robbed her blind with nat 20s that were just, and this is RNG, the random number generator in Roll20 and D&D Beyond, kept throwing nat 20s on everything they were doing. And I'm like, according to the adventure, the DC is like this, and they just keep blowing that DC out of the water. And I'm like, okay, well, one of the things they stole was a treasure map to an island. So I have this entire adventure that I'm planning for the heist characters that they're like, we're going to take a pause on this current campaign we're running and go back to the heist characters. And we want to see what's on that island,
The side quest has become the quest.
Exactly. Exactly. So, and I'm very big on doing that. Hey, there's only 3 of us. There's only 4 of us. What do we want to play? We don't have everybody. A big popular one for my groups is Call of Cthulhu. They're like, yeah, let's do some Eldritch Horror, something like that. But yeah, getting together to play something, because, we do this because we love it, right? We do this because we want to. And that's one of the big things with organized play. And that I want all of your listeners to know is 99 times out of 100, when you go to a store or join an organization like Adventures League or Pathfinder Club or whatever it is, the people who run these things are volunteers. They're not paid employees. I sure as heck wasn't. And, there were perks to being there. There were perks to being the organizer or being one of the people who do it, usually. But the biggest one is the fact that we are volunteers, and we do this because we love it. We do it because it's fun. And one of my biggest rules is, hey, and this covers a myriad of other situations. Just don't be a jerk, right? Just don't be a jerk. Just be chill, man. And as long as you're not being a jerk to everybody else, then we're fine. And I've had a couple of situations where I've had to step in and ask a player to leave, right? Because they couldn't abide that for one reason or another. So that's a thing. But the consistency, same day, same time, same channel kind of thing.
Yeah. With have you ever had to deal with player conflict? There's so much conflict when human beings get together. And we talked in the last episode about, for kids, it's really great because it helps them work through real world conflict in a safe environment where they can learn these great skills. But some of the conflicts that come up during games is like player conflict with rules. That rule wasn't the right rule, or this, rules lawyering, the hand waving, people not liking the hand waving. Some people want to play rules as written. How do you keep the environment safe and fun to keep people from being jerks? What is the number one way you can cut it off at the head before it becomes a problem, or before there are any problems?
Number 1, session 0.
Yeah.
Session 0 is very important for that. But number 2, and I cannot stress this enough, a poster with these are the rules we abide by. If you can't abide by these rules, you can't play. And every store I've been in has a set of rules posted. Like, if you're going to play at this store, this is what you do. And it has been one of those things where somebody's getting all bent out of shape, and I point to the rule book, the rules, and say, hey, this is what we do. And like I said, I've had a couple of times where players are not being acting according to social convention, we'll say, right? And one player I've had to ask to leave. I had another player storm off because they didn't like the results of their own actions. And they never came back. And I hate to say this, but in those situations, kind of good riddance. You don't want that kind of attitude. You don't want that kind of, that vibe at your table. So it's very big that you maintain a positive atmosphere. Even when things are looking grim in the story, even when things are looking dire, don't assume people are trying to be jerks. If somebody's obviously
assume the best of somebody.
Yeah, exactly. And one of my other rules is, and this is part of the rules posted in session 0, is DM's ruling is law. Period. Like, if you don't agree with what the DM has to say, that's fine. Come to me as the organizer, and I'll hear you out. But chances are, I'm going to side with my DM.
Yeah.
There's a reason I have them as DMs. I vetted these people. I know these people, and I have made sure that they are going to be the kind of people that are going to rule fairly.
Yeah. That's, I'm going to jump to the question I really want people to hear. And the question is, give me one moment when you were running Adventures League, or if it was the school club, that made you stop and say, this is why I do this. Because you said we do it because we love it, right? A lot of people are volunteers. They're not getting paid for the work of prepping. They're not getting paid to work with conflict. They're not getting paid to paint miniature trolls from a shop that 3D printed it for a Lego adventure, which is so cool.
Yeah.
Give me an example, the example you want people, the listener, to leave with that really made you feel, yes, this is why I do this.
It was a moment where it was actually my hail and farewell for those military listeners, my goodbye party. And I said, hey, can I jump in and play or run or whatever? If you don't want me running, that's fine. They're like, have you in the saddle for one last ride? Let's do this, And so for that adventure, we did an epic where it's multiple tables playing the same thing from different angles. There was 2 tables. They were assaulting a hobgoblin mine. One was taking the front entrance and getting the vast majority of the cronies and the frontline soldiers, and one group to go in for a surgical strike to the main bad guy and literally hold the line, fight him, of course, but hold the line for the other table to finish their fight and get to the main group, or get to the group with the surgical strike to help them take down the big bad, right? And at the end, they lost a third of the characters that went in. They had a 33% loss. And in this, they were low enough level, they still don't have the ability to raise the dead.
Yeah.
And so they're looking at this like, we lost a full third of everybody that came into this. But the thing is, even the players that lost their characters, there was this moment where somebody said, you know what? Even though my character died, it was worth it. They said, we didn't die purposeless. There was a purpose to our death. There was meaning behind our death. We died doing something important. And these hobgoblin slavers, we died doing something cool. And what's cool is the Discord server where we host for everything for this group actually has a channel called the Hall of Heroes. And it's it's the character name, race, class, all that jazz. But then it says how they died and why they died. Right.
Yeah.
And that right there, that hearing that was like, this is why I do this. For watching those character development moments where even when a player character dies, the player can say, no, this was cool.
It's moments of the heart. That is so awesome. And I love the idea of a Hall of Heroes. That's totally going into my Discord server before too long.
Yeah.
All right, Anthony, I'm going to bring it back. I'm going to bring it home. Before I do, is there anything else that you feel would be a shame if our listener didn't hear you say it?
Look for an organized play. It's always fun to have your home group, right? But look for organized play. You end up with forging so many more friendships, more relationships, in a world where we are constantly connected yet disconnected. Forging those friendships, those relationships, join organized play. It is worth it.
All right. Now, as I always do, I want that 10-word phrase, the activity from Eric Newsom, NPR News. Give us 10 words, no more, no less, that helps us remember and consider everything that you've talked about when considering starting or joining an organized play. What is your phrase?
Oh, absolutely. This one was actually really easy for me, and I was thinking about it ahead of time. Playing together is always better than playing on your own.
Playing together is always better than playing on your own. It's a very different experience playing on your own.
Yeah.
Solo RPGs are a thing. I think National Solo RPG Day is in October this year, and there's some really cool people trying to make that a big online event, but it is just different. There is nothing quite the same as playing with other people.
It is.
And I can't wait to try some organized play. I might jump in sometime too to get some firsthand experience. Well, thanks for being here, Anthony.
Absolutely.
Thanks for your time today. Super cool, dude. I can't wait to have you on again.
And I'd love to be on again. Thank you. Take it easy.
Playing together is always better than playing on your own. So go find some organized play.
Let's play!
I mean, unless you like solo RPGs, and in that case, you can just stay alone. Please hit like or subscribe if you enjoyed what you heard today. If you listen on Apple Podcast or Spotify, go ahead and leave the CTG 5 stars and a review. And may you keep having fun as you continue to have a great time with friends and tell amazing stories through tabletop role-playing games.